Hello everyone, this is Frances Chan. I'm glad to have David again to share with us the topic on insolvencies. David, last time you mentioned about dealing with debtors, you'll share with us.
Yes, that's right. Thanks, Francis. So today we're going to talk about what to do if someone owes you money. And we're going to talk about issuing letters of demand, suing for the debt, issuing a statutory demand, or even presenting a winding up petition if that doesn't work.
Welcome to this YouTube channel of K-Leaders. I'm Frances Chan.
I'm David Wong.
David, I need your help because my client come to me and say that they have unpaid debtors. What should they do?
Well, in this situation, the first thing to do, of course, is try and talk directly with your debtor, because that's always the best. If that doesn't work, you can always check your agreement to see what the terms are if there is a dispute. And then you can also think about writing formally to the debtor requesting payment. And you can do that yourself. Or if you don't want to do that yourself, you can also ask your solicitor to help. And often they'll send what is known as a letter before action.
David, is it better to get a lawyer to issue that letter of demand than rewrite it ourselves?
It is generally better to have a lawyer involved, and that's because they can help you review your full suite of options before sending that letter, and it often comes with more force if it comes from a lawyer than if you were to write it yourself.
Yeah, I also believe so. So what's the next step if they still not pay?
So if you've sent a letter of demand and they still haven't paid, then the next option to think about is whether you want to sue for the debt in court.
Okay.
So there are a couple of things to remember if you are going to sue for the debt. And the first is, well, where to sue in terms of which court. In Hong Kong, there are 3 courts that you need to keep in mind for civil actions.
Okay.
The first is the Small Claims Tribunal, and that is for claims which are less than 75,000 Hong Kong dollars.
Okay.
And the good thing about the Small Claims Tribunal is that you don't need lawyers to do it. You can do it yourself. It's a very easy and expedited process. So that's for small claims. If your claim is more than $75,000 but less than 3 million Hong Kong dollars, then you can go to the district court.
Okay.
And the district court will deal with the claims a little more formally than the Small Claims Tribunal. And if your claim is more than Hong Kong $3 million, then you need to file in the court of first instance.
Yeah.
The thing to remember about commencing an action in the district court or the high court is that lawyers will generally need to be involved, and the cost can be quite high.
Okay, so in terms of cost, I think the cheapest one is to go to the Small Claims Tribunal then.
That's right. And once you have gone to court and then you've got your judgment, you also need to take steps to enforce the judgment afterwards.
Okay. If I don't want to really go to the courts to pursue, then what's the option?
Another option is to issue a statutory demand. So a statutory demand is a formal demand under the Company's Winding Up and Miscellaneous Provisions Ordinance for payment by the debtor. And it must be for more than Hong Kong $10,000. And the form of the demand is prescribed in the legislation, so it must set out certain information about the debt and how to pay. It must be signed by the creditor, and then it must be served on the debtor. That means it must be hand-delivered to the debtor. And once it's been served on the debtor, then the debtor has a 3-week deadline to pay that debt.
Okay.
And if they don't, then there are serious consequences because there's a presumption of insolvency and you can proceed to wind up the debtor.
Okay. So what would be the procedures to winding up by court?
So if you want to wind up a debtor, we call that presenting a winding up petition. And the first step, of course, is to prepare the winding up petition. And you may or may not wish to get a lawyer to help you do that.
Okay.
Once you've prepared the petition, you need to file the petition in the court of first instance, and you need to serve it on the company. You also need to pay various filing fees and fee with the official receiver's office. Also give notice to the official receiver of your winding up petition. The court, once the petition has been filed, it'll set a date to hear the petition.
Yeah.
And if it is granted, then the court will make a winding up order. Okay. Once a winding up order is made, a provisional liquidator will be appointed. And then the provisional liquidator will go about the process of calling the requisite meetings and also to start the liquidation process. The thing to remember about liquidation is that it's a class remedy, which means once it's invoked, other creditors can also take advantage of the petition.
Okay. I understand this is the most expensive way to wind up a company.
I think it's one way to wind up a company. Not necessarily the fastest, but it's most common in Hong Kong.
Okay, thank you for the sharing. So David, this is the end of this presentation. So what's the key point that you think I should remember when I face that problem?
So I think the key point to remember is that when you deal with a company or a debtor who's in financial distress, is to act early, because that gives you more options. If you wait too late and the company's already gone into insolvency, then there's very limited options.
Yeah, definitely. Quick action is very essential, and lawyers' participation is also critical. So thank you so much, David. So what's the topic you want to share in the next episode?
Well, in the next episode, we're going to turn the tables a little bit, and we're going to talk about, well, what are the options for a company that is in financial distress?
Okay, so thank you very much for sharing, David, and thank you for watching. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching this video. If you like it, please give us a like and subscribe and share with your friends. Look forward to your continued support. See you next time. Bye-bye.